Man, one release after another. Xiaomi just doesn't quit. Hi guys, it's Frankie from Frankie Tech. Good to see you guys again, and a happy Mid-Autumn Festival to all who celebrate. And today I want to do a little follow-up to yesterday's Mi 10T series launch. And what a launch it was, with a great range of products across the board from Xiaomi. And the Mi 10T Pro and the Mi 10T look like great releases. But one of the releases that impressed me the most was the Mi 10T Lite. And to see these lists of specs for this phone, and then to see the price, 279 euros with a flash sale price of 249, I was very impressed. But one thing I couldn't get out of my mind was that the specs of this phone reminded me of none other than the POCO X3 NFC. And it is very clear from the spec list and the price point of this Mi 10T Lite that you could almost call this the 5G POCO X3 NFC. But what exactly is the difference between the Mi 10T Lite and this POCO X3 NFC? Well, having the in-depth spec list of both of these phones, I decided to put them side by side here, and definitely pause the video here if you want to see the in-depth specs of each of these phones. But looking down the list, we see there are a number of ways that this POCO X3 NFC and the Mi 10 Lite are so similar and yet also so different. So starting with the design, we do have Gorilla Glass 5 on both the front and back of these devices, but the POCO X3 has its own unique style with this kind of racer stripe look, while the Mi 10T Lite, I gotta say, in this gorgeous kind of green to orange hue, looks absolutely stunning. And in terms of weight, get this, they are 0.5 grams apart. 215 grams versus 214.5 for the Mi 10T Lite. And in terms of dimensions, it is almost exactly a 1-for-1 with this POCO X3 NFC and the Mi 10T Lite. Now you do notice in the renders of the Mi 10T Lite, there are no antenna bands, while on the Mi 10T and T Pro, there are. So that is using an aluminum edge, while the Mi 10T Lite is either using plastic or this aluminum alloy of the POCO X3 NFC. But in displays, this is where I think they are so similar. 6.67 inch, 120 Hz with the new adaptive sync technology basically means the phone will adjust refresh rates based on its usage to save battery. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Mi 10T Lite is using almost the exact same display as on this POCO X3 NFC. Talking about performance, and this is where we see the big gulf between the POCO X3 NFC and the Mi 10T Lite. Not only is it 4G versus 5G capabilities, but we're also looking at the Snapdragon 750G on that phone versus 732 on this POCO X3 NFC, which by the way is a terrific chipset. I've enjoyed it, but it is not 5G capable. And so I think the Mi 10T Lite is Xiaomi trying to address this section of the market for 5G capable phones and the same 6 gigs DDR4X RAM and 64 or 128 gigs UFS 2.1 storage as this POCO X3 NFC. In terms of audio, I do see dual speakers mentioned on the Mi 10T Lite, just like on this POCO X3 NFC, but there is mention of high-res audio on the Mi 10T Lite, while there's no mention of that for this phone. And in terms of battery, 5,160 on this POCO X3 NFC, 6,000 for the India model, while the Mi 10T Lite is at 4,820, 33 watts on both phones. So clearly we know where the emphasis was on this POCO X3 NFC battery life, and it still surpasses the Mi 10T Lite in this regard. Pretty similar connectivity here, Bluetooth 5.1 on both of these phones, and they both use bands 20 and 28 that are very important in Europe, and NFC on both of these phones. And last but not least, in terms of cameras, a 64 megapixel main camera on both the POCO X3 and the Mi 10T Lite, with a 13 megapixel ultrawide versus 8 on the other phone, and then those classic 2 megapixel depth and macro cameras that I really wish Xiaomi just does away with next year. Really, Xiaomi, let's do it. And so there you see it, guys, just an overview comparison between the POCO X3 NFC and the Mi 10T Lite. And so when you're really looking at the specs, the key difference here between these phones is 5G capability and the slight performance boost from the new chipset. In many ways, this POCO X3 NFC is striking all the right chords, just like the Mi 10T Lite, but just without that 5G capability, which I think for a lot of you is kind of a non-issue. So maybe this POCO X3 NFC coming in officially at 229 euros versus the eventual substantial $279 price of the Mi 10T Lite is the better option. But you could also argue that the Mi 10T Lite is essentially a POCO X3 5G. And for that reason, if you do want to future-proof and you want to get on the 5G bandwagon already, then the Mi 10T Lite is probably the better choice. But all in all, it's great to see Xiaomi hitting another incredible price point with a 5G offering for global release. And combined with the POCO X3 and all of their China releases, Xiaomi has had so many incredible releases. I'm wondering if they're going to take a break in October, but something tells me that's not going to be the case. But hit me up in the comments. What are your thoughts on the Mi 10T Lite and how it compares with this POCO X3 NFC? And which one would you pick? Hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And that's it for this video. If you liked it, give me that thumbs up. And if you love the content of Frankie Tech, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon for future updates. So still waiting for my Mi 10T Pro to arrive. And given that it's public holidays in Hong Kong, it probably won't be here until later this week or even next week. But it's all good, guys. Stay tuned for my full review of that phone coming very soon to the channel, and stay tuned for more great content coming in October here on Frankie Tech. So that's it, and this is where I leave you by saying, this is Frankie Tech signing off. Have a good one.